Okay, so the first part of the debate yesterday was focused largely on Bernie and whether or not we can afford all of his ideas. There's Medicare for all, there's free tuition, and especially because he keeps saying that he can pay for a lot of it by closing these tax loopholes, making corporations pay their fair share, and that's great. It would contribute a significant amount of money to the economy, but it certainly wouldn't even come close to paying for everything he's talking about. Josh, can we really afford Bernie's free healthcare and tuition policies?
I mean, these sort of things are very hard to predict, especially in these stages, because they are just sort of vague campaign policy proposals. I mean, even
the legislative process,
just look at how
there's a Republican Congress and this won't even happen. What about just the actual price tag? Can America really pay for this?
I was getting to that. The plans as they're put forward make estimates about how certain things would, how they would play out. And the analysis that came out with Bernie's plan done by his people estimates that it will be incredibly effective at cutting costs. And if it does cut the costs enough, it's essentially paid for. There's some tax burden problems with the payroll tax, but that's kind of another thing. But then there was an independent analysis done by a guy who, his name escapes me at the moment, but he's long been involved in coming up with single payer plans. He's absolutely a proponent of it. This is not, a conservative. This is not the Cato Institute or anything like that. And he found that he just thought that Bernie's plan was too optimistic. And he said, even being generous in his analysis, that it was underfunded by, I think something like $1 trillion. So there's no way to know, but it is going to be expensive. And everyone loves the single payer message when Bernie is able to sell the line that it'll be paid for by taxing these, the 1%. But when you do get into the cost and start talking about that and talking about how everyone's taxes will go up, premiums will go away, but still taxes are going to go up. And that's when Americans will kind of revert to type and get very scared about these sort of big plans. So, it was a fair question, and I don't think that Bernie effectively answered it anyway, or at least with any more specificity than he has in the past, which is to say not much.
Peter?
I think Josh, makes some good points there, but I'm going to step aside from
buddy.
whatever. Oh no, man, it's all up. But I think leaving aside what the American voters can be manipulated into believing or not, there's some very basic things to talk about with single payer, and the most basic of all is everybody else in the world that matters has figured out a way to do it. Japan, Germany, France, the UK, Argentina, the list is Canada. Love you too, man. All these countries have figured this out. And given how smart we are, I'm sure there is a path that the United States can come to that will not, destroy life as we know it. Second, Hillary especially likes to focus on costs without talking about the cost savings. Absent Eric, who lives in the socialist paradise of Canada, most Americans either do without health insurance or they pay an awful lot of money for health insurance. I know I do. And in addition to the premiums I pay co-pays, I pay all sorts of fees. I don't even know sometimes why I'm being charged what I'm being charged, but it's a very, very expensive country to get health care in.
Or you take pay
all
cuts
that
to get
money,
a job offer.
What's that?
I was saying more, sometimes you take a pay cut to get it in your job offer.
Yeah, to get benefits.
Exactly.
You are paying for it.
And so those savings are very much a part of what Bernie's talking about. I agree he isn't as articulate about it as he might be, and hopefully he'll learn to present it better. But, Hillary last night was pulling stuff out of her ass. She said, some survey said the federal government is going to grow by 40% under Bernie's plans. Well, God damn. That's given the size of right now, the federal government is the largest single employer in the United States. of 40% growth. I mean, Washington, D.C. is going to have to expand into Indiana to accommodate all these people. Last week Josh suggested the Republicans want to scale down to an old woman in a room with a phone. Meanwhile, apparently Bernie Sanders is going to, annex the East Coast to fit his new armies of socialist bureaucrats. There's other things, too, that I think in terms of savings, because the other thing that happens, and Hillary was somewhat evilly masterful about this last night, is she tries to take each Bernie thing in isolation. Well, here's healthcare, and that's what this is going to cost. And here's taxes, and here's what this is going to cost. And she kind of cherry picks her way through this, whereas Bernie's trying to present these things in a more holistic way. You take a small thing like raising the minimum wage. The United States spends $153 billion a year on food aid. Almost all of it is going to people who are already working somewhere, somehow. Something like half of them are working full time. If you raise the minimum wage, you will lower the amount of money that has to be spent on food aid. Bernie, I think, is a little hesitant to go out and say it, but of course, 52% of the American budget is spent on defense. And if we stop regime changing and intervening, that alone will free up untold trillions of dollars. Who knows, we could do something wacky and spend it on ourselves at home rather than pissing it away in Libya or Syria.
Peter, I gotta say though, Bernie Sanders may be Jewish, but he wasn't born in a manger. I mean, he's presenting his plan the way he presents it because it's a complex thing that might not work. Like that, even if everything goes well, we still might fuck it up just because it's a huge undertaking. So it's not as if he's given us the straight dope about the challenges of single payer healthcare. So there are politics at play. I mean, and these are fair questions that people should ask. And I say this only because I am seeing in a lot of people, in Bernie, what I saw, and I can't pretend that I didn't feel myself, in 2008 when it looked like Obama was going to beat Hillary Clinton. So it was, I think that while Bernie is a serious candidate, and it probably, the most forthright candidate that is in the race currently. He's not beyond political sort of manipulation, but I mean that is politics. He's going to sell his plan the way he can, and he's doing it well on the surface, but when you start digging in and asking questions like they did last night, he gets caught up in the weeds, and he needs to have a better answer than that if he's going to keep this going throughout the primaries and then on into the general when the Republicans, I mean, they've been experts at fighting socialized medicine for, 60 years now?
Sure, and he's going to get his messaging together or he won't. I don't know. But, the thing is, and this was a theme of Hillary's last night. In fact, it was almost her core theme, which is, since none of this is probably going to work, we better not even try anything and vote for me so that nothing changes. I mean, saying in advance something may not work
hard to fit on a poster.
Is really a piss-poor reason to not try. And that's, I think, what disturbs me. 2008, I was on the Obama train, same as everybody else. I think if I not to stretch the thing too far, because I get the Bernie, was not born in a manger, though Jesus was Jewish at birth. Bernie has decades in politics working on these same themes. In 2008, Obama hadn't been in politics long enough to need a second shave. And I think, had it not been coming off of the George W. Bush era, I don't know that he would have had the success that he did. All that said, the bottom line here is I think we should ask Hillary the same questions we asked Bernie about how stuff is going to get paid for. And I think we should not fall prey to the argument of, well, there's probably no way to make it work, so we better not even try. Let's just sit here in the dark and wait for the apocalypse.